Welcome to episode 4 of Between the Goalposts. I'm Nate Hampton, this is Jesse Krieger, and we are just pleased as punch to have Andy Reid of the Philadelphia Eagles here with us. Say hello, Andy. Alright then. Alright. Jesse, why don't you start us off?
So 2 weeks is often a popular time to take the pulse of some teams around the league, see who's humming along and see who's heading for cardiac arrest. So we're going to look at, there's 7 2-0 teams, 7 0-2 teams, and 18 1-1 teams. So we're each going to pull a team out of each win-loss category and that surprise us and talk about them. So Nate, who's your surprise 2-0 team?
I'm going to go ahead and say the Buffalo Bills. Just the way they're scoring points and the overall chemistry of the team, it's very good right now. What about you?
I'm going to go Washington Redskins. I don't think many people had Rex Grossman jumping out to a 2-0 start. But don't be fooled by the Redskins. You see, I'm going to go out and say they're like that girl that you think likes you for a couple weeks, and then it's going to go downhill, and very fast. Rex Grossman's mistakes are going to start being amplified and magnified, and their success is not going to last. Starting this Monday night against the Cowboys, who are my surprise 1-1 team, because they should be 0-2. But Tony Romo, a week after his shameful performance against the Jets, breaks his rib against the Niners, punctured his lung, and yet led the Cowboys back to the victory.
The ridiculous Jesse Holly story coming along, too.
Yeah, the Michael Irvin reality show contestant, albeit the Niners' secondary has been terrible, but Tony Romo did the job, and now they're 1-1. So who's your surprise 1-1 team?
My surprise 1-1 team is the Philadelphia Eagles. I thought they were going to go 2-0 easily and just maybe even go 6-0, have a really good record, and they're kind of stumbling a little bit. And we have the coach here, Andy Reid. You have anything you want to say about that? Fantastic. Jesse, your surprise 0-2 team.
I'm going to go St. Louis Rams because I picked them to win the division that you so famously called the trash can division of the league, and I think they still will. But the next few weeks for them is incredibly hard. I think they play Packers, maybe Cowboys. It's just the who's who of supposed playoff teams. So they could easily be 0-6, 0-7, and I think still be on pace to win the division. Just go on an insane run in the second half. Who's your surprise 0-2 team?
My surprise 0-2 team would have to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, they're losing their best players on both sides of the ball. They lost Jamal Charles last week. They lost Eric Berry the week before. Moyaki in the preseason. They're just all their good players are falling by the wayside. And at the rate that things are going, they might get that #1 overall draft pick. It's just not looking good for them. And now we have our Week 2 picks analysis. And we're going to start off with the Saints over the Bears. Jesse, what do you have to say about our pick?
Oh, we both got it right. We both thought Breeze would rebound from the Week 1 loss to the Packers. He came out firing, and the Bears weren't ready for it. And on the other side, Cutler was under fire the entire game, frustrated with his line, frustrated with his entire day. Just bad day for Cutler and the Bears.
It was ugly. The man is going to break some sort of record for amount of times he gets sacked in a season.
I think he's been sacked 90 times with the Bears so far.
I think it's 93.
Yeah. It's
not good. He was only sacked like 40-something times with the Broncos, something to look into. But and the next game was the Broncos over the Bengals. What do you have to say about your pick?
Well, I didn't see Eric Decker coming as hard as he did. 2 touchdowns. He just really picked up the slack for Brandon Lloyd being out. And the Bengals had some early success running Cedric Benson to the outside, getting nice lateral movement with the line. And then they sort of went away with that late in the game and put way too much pressure on Andy Dalton, their rookie quarterback, to win the game.
He handled it pretty good until we did a new blitz that he hadn't seen yet. And then that really threw him off guard and
yeah, I thought the Broncos did everything they could to blow the game, but barely escaped with their lives.
Oh, they did. And then the next game we have is the Pats over the Chargers. What do you have to say about that one?
Turnovers. I mean, I thought Rivers would outduel Brady, and he matched him yard for yard. Their offensive output was almost identical, but Rivers turned it over 4 times. Brady didn't turn it over at all, and the only way the Pats defense can get off the field is if you hand them the ball. So that's what happened, and that's why they came out on top.
All right. And then the next game, we have the Falcons beating the Eagles, and neither one of us saw that coming, did we?
No. I mean, again, with the turnovers, and this was Michael Vick, and it wasn't so much that he turned the ball over 3 times, it was when he turned the ball over. They would march down the field, get nice and close, and then some freak accident would happen. They give up the ball. If the Falcons get a little momentum in that building of theirs, I mean, now Matt Ryan has multiple options to go to. You're not sure where the ball is going to go. The big catch by Julio Jones in the third quarter really set him back going strong, and then Turner breaks the big run. I mean, it became too much, and especially Vic leaving the game.
All right, Mr. Reed, what do you have to say about your team's Week 2 collapse? Okay. And all right, now we have our Week 3 picks. Jesse, why don't you start us off with the Pats at the Bills?
I'm going to go Bills. I think Fitzpatrick is just killing it right now. And like I said about the Pats' defense and turnovers, that's the only way they can get off the field. He's only turned the ball over 1 time this year. So I think it's going to be a shootout, but he's going to let him up. And remember, Aaron Hernandez not playing this week, so that'll allow the Bills D to focus in on Rob Gronkowski, especially in the red zone. I think they're going to jam Brady's receivers, mess up his timing. I think they're going to watch a lot of Jets tape from last year, and I think they're going to come out. 15 straight times they've lost to the Pats. They're due for a win.
And they almost won a couple years ago, but it was
Almost.
a Leotis McKelvin fumble.
Yep.
And if you have any fantasy players on either of these teams, I would recommend starting them.
Shootout.
Fantastic. And then the next game, we have the Texans at the Saints. I have Houston. You have New Orleans. What's your reasoning?
I think the Texans' defense has improved, but no defense can handle Drew Brees. The Packers proved that. The Bears proved that. I mean, he's just too good. I know it sounds like I'm on the Brees bandwagon, but he's an unstoppable force. He has too many weapons, and the Saints' D is good enough, I think, with Arian Foster, running back situation. I don't think the Texans are quite equipped to match them blow for blow.
Yeah, I just think the Houston Texans are on such a high right now that I think they're going to ride that a few more weeks before they have their first loss. And I think that nobody can block Mario Williams right now. He's just playing on a whole nother level. And the defense is opportunistic and a lot more improved than it's been in the last few years. It's going to be a close game, but I think Houston's going to take it. Then our third game, we have the Broncos at the Titans. I'm picking Denver. I'm being a homer again. I'm not going to be able to do that for a few weeks. And you have Tennessee. What's your reason?
Chris Johnson. I think this is the week he breaks out of his slump, his funk, his lockout funk. And, I mean, what better team to run against than the Broncos? I think he's going to have close to 200 yards on the ground, also some through the air. I think he's going to slice and dice, smash and dash, whatever you want to call it. And if Bailey doesn't play, Kenny Britt will also have a field day over the top. So I think the Titans are going to run all over him, and they'll be good enough on defense to outlast the Broncos at home.
All right, and that's something really good to point out. If Champ Bailey doesn't play, it's a whole completely different team. Like, we can lose about anybody else on the team and we can put somebody in there, but Champ Bailey, you can just pretty much do whatever the hell you want against the Broncos defense.
A.J. Green, 10 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown last week.
I want to talk about that right now. But the Broncos offense, I think, is starting to click a little bit more. McGahee, I think he might be taking over the starting job. Maybe they'll start using Moreno in more of a role that he's meant to be, a Reggie Bush-esque role where they use him out of the backfield, pitches, stuff like that. And if they do that, I think that they'll have a pretty good chance to win. And also, I think Lloyd's going to be coming back, and I think they just have more offensive weapons, and the Titans have defensive stoppers or whatever the hell you want to call it. But I just think they have a better chance to win. And then next we have the Packers at the Bears. You picked Chicago, I picked Green Bay. Your reasoning?
Well, Cutler was very frustrated last week after the offensive line implosion against the Saints, so I think they're going to really focus on that this week. And the Packers, worst pass defense in the league so far this year, and now Nick Collins, their safety, out for the year with a neck injury. So I think Cutler is going to slice and dice their back end. He's going to get the ball out quick so Clay Matthews doesn't ruin his day like he ruins so many other quarterbacks' days.
Does do a lot of that.
And Bears D always seems to sneak up on people. Even last year against the Packers, they usually hold the Packers to 14, 21 points. So it'll be a relatively low-scoring game by Packers standards, and I think the Bears will edge them.
Well, I just think the Packers are going to win because nobody on the Bears' offensive line can save Cutler to save their lives. They're not fit to watch a baby boy or anything. They're not. I wouldn't trust them to babysit my children, let alone block my quarterback. But this Clay Matthews is going to ruin his day, as you so eloquently put it. He's going to ruin it, and then his next 4 or 5 days too, because he's going to hit him so hard. I just think the Packers are a better team right now, and probably one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best team in the NFC. Not like the Eagles, but homeboy over here.
All right, so now for some fantasy sleepers for this week, because a lot of injuries, a lot of waiver wire pickups. Who do you got as your fantasy sleeper this week?
My fantasy sleeper is James Starks for the Green Bay Packers. He's slowly but surely taking over that job from Ryan Grant, and his yards per carry average is near the top of the league. And he's just running with more power and precision. He's just a better player right now. I think if you have him, you might want to consider starting this week, but definitely start him next week. He's going to come on.
Yeah, probably a guy you had to draft, but if you're fortunate enough to have him, you might want to start him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Denarius Moore, the rookie receiver for the Raiders, who exploded onto the scene last week against the Bills with a couple highlight catches. I think his ball skills are elite, and he's going to surprise a lot of people, and he's really taking advantage of the injuries in their wide receiver part. I think he's going to be a star.
All right. Mr. Reed, do you have any fantasy sleepers? Didn't think so. Okay.
So now for Nate's Naturals, who's really impressing you this week?
Well, I thought he was going to be a pretty solid wide receiver, but the last couple weeks he's turned into more of a game breaker, and he's really coming into his own. I'm going to say Eric Decker for the Denver Broncos. This guy is hands of glue. He's very trustworthy, and he's a bit more of a playmaker than a lot of people thought he would be coming out of college last year. He's really coming on, and Kyle Orton's really taking a shine to him. If Brandon Lloyd doesn't play again, expect another big day for Eric Decker.
Yeah, he threw one of those Bengals defenders right out of the way when he made that 50-yard
More like a
touchdown.
Michael Irvin-esque, I didn't do anything. But it worked, and there was no flag, so there was a touchdown on the play, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so now for Jay's 5 cents, what do you got to say?
I want to talk about the blown leads from last week. There were 4 blown leads of at least 10 points in the fourth quarter by the Vikings, the Niners, the Eagles, and the Raiders, and almost by the Broncos. See, most NFL games aren't dominated by one side or the other. The teams take turns giving each other shots, and it's really all about who's ahead when the music stops at the end of the fourth quarter. So this is where running the ball comes in, timing your offense, controlling the game, and some of these teams really have to work on, because you can't deliver your fans games like these where you blow leads at the end. You gotta hold on to games in the fourth quarter.
All right, you mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles blowing that lead late in last week's game. Since we have Andy Reid here when we ask him about it, do you think it was more of a fault of the offensive line, Michael Vick's decisions, or the coaching maybe? All right, that's a good point. All right, that's all we have for you this week. Be sure to tune in next week where we'll have a lot more of the same shenanigans. Andy Reid will be back for more of his colorful commentary. Y'all love that, I know you do. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at @J5 and @NateHampton, where we'll give you up-to-date news and analysis and all sorts of stuff. Ask us questions, do whatever the hell you want. It's Twitter. And then subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please do that. Watch our YouTube stuff. Deuces. Thanks for joining us this week. Next week we're going to talk about more of the same shenanigans, and he's probably going to be back, so you can look forward to that, all his colorful commentary and all that nonsense. Be sure to...
It slowly went...
Alright, now all we have to do is the outro.
Okay.